Oh, hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. This week on Big Country Woodworking and Home Repair, we're gonna build a door. I've never built a door. I know what a door looks like, and that's what we're gonna go on. So follow me while we discover how to make a door. Okay, here we go. How does Eric Curtis sit like this? Oh.
Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos, I always start off by squaring up my boards. This is just me milling down all the pieces to their rough dimensions, making sure, everything is exactly where it needs to be. Once I have everything to its appropriate length, all I'm doing here is on the stiles, which are the horizontal pieces, I'm cutting off all the rounded edges. On the rail pieces, I'm cutting off all the edges, and then I'm actually going to cut those down to the correct width that I need for the doors. I've actually had all these lumber sitting in my shop for a few days now, just so it climatizes with the humidity or lack thereof in my shop, to just kind of minimize all the warping and twisting it's going to do over time. And once I get all these pieces down to the correct sizes, I'm actually going to let them sit again, just to get rid of any kind of, like I said, bows or twisted, as you can see me doing here.
All right, day two. So far, got pretty much the lumber milled or cut to somewhat close dimensions. It's been sitting in my shop for about, day and a half. So it's climatized a little bit. My goal today, because I'm short on time, is to cut all the dados in all the pieces. I'm going with a 1/2 inch MDF panel for the panels, so that way I don't have to really worry about the wood expanding, and this door's gonna be painted white, so we'll be good there. The only issue I have is I have this nice fancy miter gauge for my wonderful contractor saw, but I'm gonna have an issue cutting all the tenons because I'm gonna be doing like a TNG, tongue and groove type put together, because I don't have anything to really make mortises. And then I'm gonna brad nail all the tongues to the rails. So let's get started. So I'm gonna start off by just doing a test piece and getting my dado dialed in right. I do have a dado stack somewhere, I hope. And then I'll be good to go. So follow along. MDF is a 1/2 inch. I'm just going to put a 1/2 inch stack in and see where we go from there. 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, 1.5 inches. If I want that thing perfectly centered, I need pretty much 3/8 on each side. All you do is just take 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, work with 1/2 inch, not 3/4. All you do is take 1/2 inch material, subtract the thickness of the panel, so 1/2 inch. So I need a 1/2 inch on each side. And to get that perfectly dialed in, I do have spacer blocks. Oh, nice.
So all I'm using to set up my dado stack in my saw are these Craig setup blocks. I absolutely love them. They come in a wide range of sizes, so you can pretty much set anything up with them.
Let's test it out with a 1/2 inch. Like I said, it's just to beat this thing.
Sorry for all that rambling. And it's at this point where I probably should have realized that I was going to have an issue. I mean, with all the sawdust just spraying in my face. I should probably turn my dust collection on. But like I said, at this point is where I probably should have realized I was going to have a pretty big issue that you'll see later on in the video with me trying to cut the dados like this and having no throat plate. So I'll kind of let this play on. You'll see it right about here is where I should have been like, oh yeah, I got an issue, but I decided to soldier on and see if I can do it without it and not taking a hit.
So right out, because it's such a narrow piece and I don't have a dado stack.
So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to do the long pieces first, just so I knew I could get it over the gap. I wouldn't have too much of an issue. As you saw, it did still hit, but it was a little bit easier. Again, once I get to the smaller pieces, you'll see my mistake.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
And there you have it, folks. How I didn't take my hand off is pure amazement. And then this is me just standing there trying to figure out how I can still do this without a throat plate. Idiot.
Alright, so I ran into a little issue. The width of where a throat plate should go is shorter than the piece I made. So what I can do is I think I'm gonna try to make a throat plate with what I got. quick. Where did I put that? Let's take a look here. So, this throat plate is just under 1/2 inch. Take with the plywood and stuff I have around here, I can make one. Let me get back to you. If all of a sudden you see a throat piece in here, then I did it. So on guys, I'm gonna be honest. It's been a few days since that last clip. Now I did make a throat plate for my job site saw. As you see, this is not my job site saw. I made a little bit of an upgrade. I have the opportunity, someone donated this to the shop, so I took it. Well, I didn't take it, it's mine now. What I like about it, it's a rigid 40R 4560. It's got more in-feed space. It's a bigger motor. Also, cast iron tabletop. So far, haven't really done much with it other than unpack it. And so this will be the first test. So what we still have to do is do the dados on the center rail pieces, as well as cut the tenons on those and cut all the panels and then glue everything up. So let's get into it.
So this was a much needed upgrade for the shop. As you can see, I have a throat plate for my dado stack. I also got a zero clearance throat plate so I can throw in there. It's just me chopping away at those dados and dialing up those tenons. And while I have you here, I do want to apologize. It has been quite some time since I put out any kind of substantial video. I do apologize, get a little busy, but I will be putting out more and more content as we progress. Also, just realized I had a wardrobe change in between the dados and the tenons. Don't remember what that was about. But thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching. Now that I have all the pieces cut the way I want them, it's time to dry fit everything into place just to see how everything looks. And then once I get everything dry fit, that's when I'll start measuring for the MDF panels. Once I have all those measurements, I pull out my rigid track saw and I just start cutting the MDF into the shapes I need. Pretty straightforward. Now that I have all the pieces set, I can knock over the camera, sorry. Now that I have all the pieces cut out, I can dry fit the entire door and get ready for glue up.
All right, so we got the door fitted up nicely. Some of these joints fit pretty good, some are a little loose, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna start the glue up process, throw it in clamps, and away we go. So let's jump into it.
This is a pretty straightforward glue up. Just filling all those dados with glue, and then kind of coating the tenons, getting to their spot. Yeah, pretty. This is probably one of the easier glue ups I've ever done. Pretty straightforward and simple. Big thing with the door, you want it to be square. So you'll see me periodically checking corners, throwing a framing square, combination square on there, just to make sure everything's nice and square and actually fit in the door opening.
Okay, now that we got our initial clamps, I'm not overly concerned with the squeeze out, considering I'm going to sand and paint this. So I'm not too worried about this, but I'm going to leave it in clamps. Just going to check it real quick for square, just to make sure. Check my measurements. She's nice and square. Eighths. 78 5/8. All right, we're good. Okay, she's nice and square, and we'll call it a day. I'm gonna leave it in clamps. Gonna throw some more clamps on it. You'll see that, and then gonna leave it in clamps for about a day or so. All right. It's been a day or so. Ready to take this out of clamps. Most of these joints are pretty okay. There are some gaps. I'm going to be sanding the crap out of this thing. We're going to be painting it, so all the seams and stuff are going to get, if there's any large gaps, we're going to get caulked. I'm excited about painting it. Other than that, let's get down to business.
As I take it out of clamps, it's time to suit up and do everyone's favorite thing. Sand it. Now that we got all those theatrics out of the way, it's time to sand this thing. It's the most boring process. It's even harder to watch, so I'll do my best to kind of cut this up as much as I can. Long story short, I start at anywhere from 80 to 120 to knock down any kind of large ridges or anything, and then I'll go ahead and hit it again with 220 just to smooth it out and make it paintable. That's pretty much about it. Enjoy.
Okay, today is day 3,944 of building this door. Like I said, I'm doing this in the spare time. But what today we're gonna do is we're gonna throw some caulk in this. We're gonna cut the hole for the doorknob and possibly throw a coat of paint. So let's jump right into it.
I'm using one of my favorite products to use. It is Big Stretch by Sashco. It is super pliable, so in case any of that wood does decide to shrink and expand, it'll be perfect.
Okay, this is day 9,332 of making this door. I know I said last clip or last sequence that we were gonna finish it, yada, yada, yada. Didn't happen. But today, drilling the hinges, or drilling the knobs, doing the hinges, painting this door, getting it done no matter what. No distractions. So let's jump into it. All right, so I took a measurement of pretty much where the average hinge is in the customer store. So I'm gonna measure that out. The average hinge is probably about 38 to 36. These hinges were very low. They were at like 32 inches. In order for it to, now I'm gonna kind of split the difference and make them at like 30, I'll make it 34. It'll be center of the hinge.
I have no idea why I kept calling the knobs hinges. Serious brain fart. But this is just a cheap knob cutting jig. You can see by the bits that come with it. Not very good, and you'll see in a little bit what I mean.
I don't have a fancy clamp. So all I'm gonna do is take my speed screw, gonna clamp it on the door. That way it kind of gives it a nice flat thing to hold on to. Then I'm gonna take another one and I'm gonna clamp it to the table. That way this thing's pretty sturdy. Good. An outward swinging door. So, rule of thumb, and key little tip, if you ever see the barrel of the hinges, that means the door swings to you. If you don't see hinges, that means the door swings in. So, let's get to, I took some measurements again, I'll lay it out, and then we'll put some hinges on. Follow along.
This is the only product from Ryobi that I absolutely love. It's this hinge kit thing. I bought it years ago and I love it.
I'll repeat the other side just to get them pre-hung or pre-installed. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this, clean this thing off, and then start painting. So let's do it. Okay, now I got the door all ready for paint. What I like to do, so I'm able to paint both sides at once and not have to wait for one side to dry. I'll stick 2 screws on either end and hang them from the sawhorses. That way when I'm done with one side, I can flip it and then both sides dry at the same time. So you kind of paint at twice the speed. So I'm gonna take care of that, and then we're gonna jump right into painting. Follow along.
And if you made it this far, I want to thank you for sticking around. I know this is a relatively long video, but hopefully you've learned a little bit. Having never done a door before, this was fun. It works. I think it turned out pretty good, as you'll see in some of the B-roll. I didn't film any of the installation because YouTube's flooded with door installations. But yeah, like I said, thank you for following along. And if you get a second, please like the video and subscribe.
Okay, that's one coat down. As you saw in the time lapse, almost had catastrophe I kicked out one of the sawhorses and almost sent the whole door to the ground. What I'm going to do is let this sit for a couple hours. This is probably going to take probably 3 or 4 coats of paint, just because it's soaking up so much, the wood's soaking up so much paint. But like I said, going to let this sit, and then we'll come back.
So it took about 3 or 4 coats of paint to get this thing fully painted. I think it turned out nice. We matched the hinges and the doorknob to what they had in the house. For my first door, I think it went well. Learned a lot. Made it this far. Thank you guys for tuning in. And again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video.